What we're trying to do is, in fact, move away from that term. And we're not using that term. In fact, we think that's one of those sort of time has come type terms. Same with the words 360-degree marketing. And I guess that sense of creating work that just is what we would call matching luggage, it's no longer that which creates true, proper, integrated work. And so from our point of view, and working with a brand like Sanlam, what we've worked very hard to do is evolve ourselves, very much in line with the vision we'd always had. But I think that the Sanlam brand has allowed us that opportunity more recently to be able to fulfill that by properly embracing integration and not just simply having an assembly of like-minded skill sets or even specialist skill sets that come together. So the idea becomes now in our world way more important than the ability to be able to place it into any channel, and as such we are now able to deliver proper ideas that can integrate rather than simply taking a core idea that was developed for one medium and placing it in other mediums. And I think that way the idea is much more strongly executed and is much more strongly represented. So yeah, that's our journey.
What has happened is I think the relationship has evolved over time. We had initially started off with briefing one or two people, and often what we found, either as a result of being limited by your budget, a great idea that comes up secondary to something else can't be executed because the client doesn't have budget for it. So instead of putting yourself through that process, what we've decided was that it probably makes sense to have the right people in the room brainstorming. Because when you do and you allow the creatives to go away, and when the creatives do present, you then understand where your strongest idea sits, in which medium and in which channel. And it's through that strongest idea you decide what else you need to execute. And it doesn't have to be 360, as James says, it doesn't have to be all channels. You may very well decide that this very strong idea sits perfectly in digital and it will live and die in digital.
We don't have media channel planning residing in the agency. We obviously work very closely with whoever the channel is, but I think that what you're referring to, I suppose, is the old days where it'd just be idea first, channel second, and I think that there's always been that sort of grappling in the creative agency around when do you apply channel? Do you apply channel pre an idea? And there's a certain measure of intelligence that's required in that area, so you're not just being irrelevant to the audience who you need to talk to. But in our world, we try and place idea first, and so having a group of specialists that allow us to think across the different channels and making it relevant in those channels, I suppose gives us a head start in the idea generation, because we're able to say, okay, does this idea work beautifully in digital? Do we know digital's a relevant channel for the brand and the audience that we need to? And so it's at a higher level. We might not know that it's going to go into that specific digital asset, or it's going to be an online film, or it's going to be, a series of click-through banner ads. But at the time of idea origination, we have enough, I suppose, intelligence in the room to be able to know that this idea is going to execute in digital really well. And I think that's for us the key, is that when we have an idea, does it automatically develop that quality which explodes it right across the medium, so that people are not individually saying, "Ooh, I've got this idea, now I've got to try and make it work in this particular channel." It's a much more intuitive way of working, which is like, oh, wow, that's incredible. I know how I can make that work in that channel or that channel. And then we assess it as to how it then explodes, rather than saying it's a must. You have to go and put it in that channel because the media plan says that it has to, or the brand brief says that it has to. So, and I think that's where the collaboration between brand and agency comes to bear, is that we're united, I think, in trying to find the right way to express a brand idea, rather than saying we have to measure to a tick box of kind of answers and of executions. So I guess what's unique about our world, and this is work in progress, it's not by any means concluded, but it's a journey we're on to collapse our structures as best we can. So while we used to have 5 or 6 different disciplines, now what we have is an assembly of diverse skills. And it's subtle, but it's quite different in the way that affects your culture and the way you work as an agency. And what's great is that the marketing teams within the Sanlam and the Santam brand are starting to mirror that way of thinking with us, and that's great.
Yeah, so I think importantly from our side, the one thing we don't do anymore is we don't brief and specify a medium. We will brief an idea, a concept, give an indication of budget, and then wait to see what comes out of the process.
Yeah. And we'll always engage. Sanlam and Santam have their independent media planning agency, who we've got a great relationship with, and we just integrate with them as well.
When we took our brand to market, which was Sanlam Wellsmiths, we decided at the time that what lies at the core of what we talk about, the creative idea, would be coming down to the value of a rand, which is the basic denomination of money, and that is what we talk about. At that time, as we went through taking brand to market, we had a television ad, we had radio, and we were talking about at that stage what we should be doing on digital, because we were relaunching our digital platforms.
Yeah.
And it was through that process that the One Rand Man idea was born. It wasn't a particular brief to go and find us this property, but it was born through that process. And when the One Rand Man was actually, when we heard about it, we fell in love with it immediately. And, Alistair and I always have a joke, because he always says if there's a great idea, it's an easy sell. And I say it's an easy sell because it talked to our strategy. So it wasn't just a great idea, but it didn't belong with Sanlam. It talked to our strategy. So that was an example of something that started off and could stand on its own in digital. And what happened this year, we extended it a little further. So we went on with One Rand Family, but we also took it into television, and then Drum, Heskenut, and You magazine.